everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to see you, especially our new friends. I'm talking to you, Jeremy. I hope at least one person named Jeremy watches this video. Hi everybody, my name's King Noosme. I asked you guys which episode of the Haunting Hour I should make a video on, and you guys finally voted for Uncle Howee. It's been on 2 previous polls and sadly lost both of those, and then the Uncle Howee fans were mad and pissed at me like I'm the one that controls the polls. But luckily this time it had a pretty insane comeback and actually beat out the Weeping Woman and got first place. So let's give a round of applause to Uncle Howee. He deserves it. I know I say this about literally every episode of the Haunting Hour, but Uncle Howee is legit the most requested episode of the Haunting Hour I get. I think the first ever request I got was all the way in the very first Haunting Hour video for Uncle Howee. It's one of the most popular and memorable episodes thanks to Tom Kenny's amazing performance. And the episode is actually so good that it won a couple of Leo awards, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. For those of you guys that don't know what the Haunting Hour is a children's anthology horror show that aired on a now defunct channel called The Hub. The Hub aired some pretty popular TV shows, including Transformers Prime, My Little Pony. It even aired the old Batman show and Fraggle Rock. But the Haunting Hour was made by R.L. Stine, who's most famous for his series of books called Goosebumps. And the Haunting Hour is considered to be one of the scariest kid shows of all time. The show has a nice mixture of original stories as well as stories from the Nightmare Hour book and the Haunting Hour book. And if you enjoy this video, I have a whole freaking catalog of the most popular, the scariest, the wackiest Haunting Hour episodes in a playlist for you so kindly to watch. Uncle Howee is the last episode in season 3, and it actually aired a couple of days before Christmas in 2013. It was also a little bit ahead of its time. The episode turns a children's TV show into a horror story, and I couldn't really find much that had this premise before Uncle Howee. The only 2 I could think of was Candle Cove and Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. I'm sure there were a lot of different shows that did that take way beforehand, but those are the only 2 I could think about. And like I said earlier, Tom Kenny plays the main antagonist in this episode. And if you somehow don't know who Tom Kenny is, you've definitely heard his voice. He's in literally everything. Look at this resume. Holy shit, there's so much stuff. Some of the most popular characters he's voiced is the mayor of Townsville in Powerpuff Girls, the Ice King in Adventure Time, and of course, SpongeBob SquarePants. He was also Wheelie in the Transformers movies, that annoying little shit. Sadly, this is his only role in the Haunting Hour, but he definitely left his mark. But I'll talk more about details after we finish the episode, so let's quit yapping and get into it. We start this episode with a catchy little tune as we meet the infamous Uncle Howee.
How we doing? How we doing?
Watching this brain rot of a TV show is Cynthia, and she's really getting into it.
Wowie zowie!
Cynthia is played by Gina Skoji, and she was actually in another Haunting Hour episode called Arg V. And despite it sounding very piratey, it has nothing to do with pirates. It's actually about an RV that comes to life. And Gina plays a dead girl that died in the RV. She also won a Young Artist Award for this episode. So go Gina. While Cynthia is enjoying her favorite TV show, an unamused boy named Jared comes in, and he is upset because he can't go hang out with his friends because he has to babysit his little sister, or as he calls her,
My little blister.
why do you call her that?
Because she's annoying like a blister.
I could have figured that out, yeah. And you might recognize Jared from the previous video I've made on the Haunting Hour, because he's the annoying brother Scott that gets his head turned into a pumpkin in Pumpkinheads. He also plays the little boy Sam in Alien vs. Predator Requiem. He was also the first kid to die by a chest burster in that movie series. And his death was so brutal that it actually led to the movie having some controversy for them killing off a kid in such a brutal way. Anyways, we learn that Jared is babysitting his sister because their mom is working the night shift at the hospital. But all of Jared's friends are going to see a movie and he really wants to go. So he devises a plan to sneak out. Back inside the living room, we learn that Uncle Howee is farming parasocial relationships with children.
Uncle Howie's my friend.
I would never do anything like that with you guys because I love you guys, especially you. Yeah, you. I love you the most. And Jared keeps trying to remind his sister that she doesn't actually know Uncle Howee, so she's not actually his friend.
Cynthia, for the 247th time, Uncle Howie's not your friend.
Dang, he told her that many times? And he's counting each time he tells her? I don't know who's more weird in this situation. Jared is getting a little tired that his little sister is ignoring him because he's trying to tell her how terrible of a show her favorite TV show is. So to gain her attention, he turns off the TV, which Uncle Howee himself doesn't seem to appreciate. Kinda looks concerned for a second before he turns the TV off. Jared tries to get his sister to do something else besides sit in front of the TV, but she's a persistent little girl and she just wants to watch Uncle Howee. So Jared just throws the remote on the couch and then she immediately just watches Uncle Howee again, where he talks about how much he missed Cynthia because he is her friend. And it's revealed that the show maybe isn't so parasocial after all.
Because we're your friends. Isn't that right, Cynthia?
Okay, where are the cameras? Uncle Howee has tapped the house. Is it up here? Cut back to Jared, who plans to put his little sister in bed and then sneak out to go watch the movie with his friends, making it back before his mom gets home from her shift. So he goes downstairs to find his sister, and she's surprisingly not sitting in front of the TV rotting her brain away. Rather, she's sitting at the kitchen table, staring emotionless.
You are so weird.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The two are starting to get a little hungry, but luckily their mom left them $20 to buy a pizza. But Jared needs money to get inside his movie, so fish sticks it is! He doesn't even bother washing off a plate for his little sister before he plops count them, two fish sticks inside the microwave.
It smells fishy.
Yeah, no shit. What do you think fish sticks are gonna smell like? Apple pie? The fish sticks smell so bad that they summon Uncle Howee, who is there to teach kids how to eat right. Maybe Uncle Howee isn't so much of a bad guy, actually. But Jared finds it weird that the TV turned on all by itself, and that Uncle Howee knows that they were supposed to order pizza.
Unless it's pizza.
But it's just too weird for him, so he turns the TV off just in time for the fish sticks to finish. Ah, yes, disgusting fish sticks and milk. The meal of gods. Cynthia makes the right decision and decides not to eat the meal, which probably saved her from having wicked diarrhea later. Since Cynthia refuses to eat her dinner and his friends are kind of pressuring him to hurry up, he tells his little sister that she needs to go to bed now because he's in charge of the house and whatever he says goes. But she refuses and sits in front of the TV to watch Uncle Howee because she wants to watch Uncle Howee, and she's going to use her willpower to turn the TV on. But that's not how TVs work. Or is it? No, it's not. So he picks up Cynthia and carries her upstairs to get ready for bed. But that's when Uncle Howee turns on the TV and starts looking for Cynthia. I guess that is how a TV works. Jared tries to get Cynthia to put on her pajamas to go to bed, but she just gives him that emotionless blank stare. I'm starting to actually think her brain is rotted out, dude. She just stares emotionless unless Uncle Howie's in front of her. Luckily, when Jared steps out, she puts on her pajamas and then he tells her to go brush her teeth before she gets to bed. But she's not alone in the bathroom.
What's going on in there?
Is he in the bathroom with her? Uncle Howee, more like Uncle Diddy. Cynthia steps out of the bathroom and Jared tells her to go to bed because
Rules is rules.
great grammar, Jared. But Cynthia tries to warn Jared that he is here and he is very upset. But of course, Jared thinks that she's just trying to scare him, so he brushes this off and pushes her to bed. And before Jared could walk out, she tells him,
He's gonna get you.
and then she fakes like she's sleeping, but she actually has this devilish smile on her face. Yeah, that's not creepy at all. And as Jared is getting ready to leave, the TV turns on its own. And it starts playing that same catchy tune we heard at the beginning of the episode. Jared goes into the living room to try and turn the TV off, but that's when Uncle Howee starts talking to Jared specifically. This freaks Jared out so much that he understandably turns off the TV and unplugs the TV. And this is when he gets a call from who he assumes is his friend, but it's actually Uncle Howee. Just then, Uncle Howee's piano passes behind him in the hallway, and Uncle Howie's bunny friend Loomis is bouncing all around the kitchen, where he accidentally leaves his carrot behind.
Get your hands off my carrot, miss!
Somehow, Uncle Howee has found his way inside the house, and he creepily sings his theme song once again, but this time it's live. Hey, Jared is lucky. I'm sure thousands of kids would have paid at least $100 to see that. Jared starts asking really dumb questions like, how did you get in my house? Pfft, idiot. And the rabbit Loomis calls Jared out on being a bad big brother and just a bad person in general. And I'm starting to get the sense that Loomis doesn't really like Jared.
You little blister!
Damn. At least Uncle Howie's nicer.
Jared doesn't mean to be a hateful, vicious bully all the time.
Never mind, Uncle Howie's pretty brutal too. No joke, I thought he was gonna say hateful, vicious bitch when I first watched this episode, but then I remembered it's a kid's show. Jared is super freaked out by this, so he decides he's gonna call the cops. But checkmate, bitch. They're the cops.
Hello, police department.
Uncle Howee offers up a game to Jared. It's a very simple game called
Find your sister before mom gets home and ground you for the rest of your life.
Was that the title or the instructions? Uncle Howee gives Jared 1 minute to find his little sister, and he wastes no time in starting the clock. Luckily, Cynthia gives Jared multiple clues to find her, which takes him upstairs to her room, but she's not there. So he checks his own room and he finds somebody hiding under the sheets. So he rips them off to find
Time's a running!
Uncle Howee. Cynthia kind of taunts Jared a little bit because it sounds like her voice is coming from literally all around him and he cannot find her. And after he doesn't find her upstairs, he decides to try looking downstairs. Sadly, the time is up and Jared did not find his little sister. And Uncle Howee rubs this in by giving us a pretty catchy tune.
Time's up! Time's up! Looks like you lost the game!
And Jared is visibly upset that he lost his sister, so Uncle Howee tries to cheer him up by offering him some food.
How about a fish stick?
Hey, that one still looks better than the ones he tried to feed his sister. This is when Jared tries to find a rational explanation for everything that's happening. He thinks Uncle Howee broke into his house and somehow hacked his phone so he couldn't call the cops or anybody, which is reasonable, but he does not know how Loomis is moving around so much. So he finally asks them what do they want. And Uncle Howee says the most Uncle Howee thing ever. He just wants to be Jared's friend. So Jared reluctantly agrees.
I can't hear you!
Hey, that sounds familiar.
I can't hear you!
So Jared agrees to be his friend and they shake on it. Literally shake their bodies. God, this rabbit's gonna get whiplash. Calm down, man. Then we cut to their mom who's coming home after her long shift. And Cynthia is still watching Uncle Howee in the living room. And their mom can't seem to find Jared anywhere. And as she's looking for the remote to finally turn the TV down, this thing has been blasting throughout the whole episode, Uncle Howee decides to introduce us to his new friend.
Jared!
There he is, Mommy. There's Jared.
Jared has been turned into a literal puppet in the show, and he is forced to say cringe things like,
How we doing?
but I think Cynthia likes it. But her mom, not so much. That's how the episode ends. Probably one of the crazier endings to The Haunting Hour. It's definitely not the craziest, but it's probably top 10. And I'm gonna say it, Jared had it coming. Hey, karma just caught up to him, you know? It was being a terrible older brother to Cynthia. I mean, calling her his little blister until the very end when he thought he was going to lose her. Only feeding her 2 freezer-burnt fish sticks with milk? What are you thinking? At least give her like water. Something normal. And also, the kicker is trying to force her to go to bed early so he can sneak out to go see a movie with his friends. And stealing the $20 for the pizza. Yeah, he was gonna leave his toddler sister alone in the house for hours by herself. Yeah, he needed to learn some kind of lesson. Wow, Liam James is going 2 for 2 as a terrible brother in a Haunting Hour episode. But I will say his fate was pretty brutal. I think Uncle Howee scared him enough of making him think he was gonna lose his sister. But being turned into a puppet for a kid's show is probably the worst fate. Period. But of course, Tom Kenny absolutely destroys the role of Uncle Howee. He is so energetic and absolutely insane throughout the whole episode, and he also does a great job at letting the evil side of Uncle Howee slip out every once in a while. A great example is when he first turns the TV off at the beginning of the episode. For a split second, you can see his face drop as he's like concerned, questioning, and probably a little upset. And this happens multiple times throughout the episode. You can catch him giving glares to Jared or just being creepy towards Cynthia. It was also really cool to see it because, as you guys know, I watched these episodes multiple times, and every time I watched it, I spotted something that I didn't notice the watch through before. I also love that Uncle Howee can just bend reality to his will. He's gotta be one of the most powerful characters in all of the Haunting Hour. Like, he is actually a cartoon character, and I'm sure they would have loved to show this ability more, but I heard whispers that the budget for this episode wasn't so high, and that's why it's only in a single house. But like I said before, the episode is actually really good. It does feel like it drags every once in a while. Like, we get it. He's trying to sneak out to go see his friend, to go see a movie. We understand that. You don't have to tell us that every 5 minutes. But they kind of make up for that by showing us a pretty goofy, wacky Uncle Howee every time we get a little bored. And they do balance the goofy and creepy masterfully in this episode. And it starts right at the beginning of the episode too. You think Cynthia's just watching an innocent little kid's show. That is until Uncle Howee calls her out by name. That immediately lets you know that something's not right, and it's genius. And I do have a theory about this episode. I don't think Uncle Howee was in Jared's house. Rather, he brought Jared into his TV show and forced him to play a game of hide and seek he knew he wouldn't win for all his viewers to see. I think this because Jared could hear Cynthia all around him in the house, but he couldn't find her anywhere. And she was giggling the whole time, kind of like she was taunting her brother. And I think this because we know that she shows absolutely no emotion unless she's watching the TV show. So her constant giggling is probably a good sign that this is true. But I don't know, it's just a theory. A Haunting Hour theory. Also, I wanted to mention that this episode was actually written by Rick Drew, who actually wrote a lot of the Goosebumps episodes. And some bangers too, like Night of the Living Dummy 2, It Came From Beneath the Sink, both Monster Bloods, Vampire Breath, but he did write a couple of stinkers like Go Eat Worms and Strained Peas, so sadly this was the only Haunting Hour episode he did write, but it does kind of feel like a lost Goosebumps episode. Let me know what you think about this episode in the comments below. Also, I want to thank Echo Arcade for these really cool Goosebumps dripping shelf hanger things. They're not sponsoring the video or anything, but they are made very well and they look really nice. They tie my shelf together really nicely. And I've messaged with them a little bit. They're very sweet. And if you want some for yourself, I'll put the Etsy link in the description below. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get bonus content plus videos a day early, maybe some pictures of my cats. Also your name right here on screen. I'm also lumping in YouTube members with that now. now. So YouTube members get everything Patreon members get. I do want to thank some longtime Patreon members like Cam the Frogman, Forgotten History, and Sammy the Squid. And on the flip side, I want to mention some new YouTube members, Lucifer Wolf, Trisha Owens, and Alicia Crunk. Thank you guys for supporting me directly. I appreciate you all. But that's all I have for you today. So like the video if you liked the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace. Side note, you guys like my haunted mask pop? I got it. I finally found it. It was in all my stuff. Bought it before I moved and then got shoved in a box and I couldn't find it.